Everyone that's in music calls it the music industry. But I don't think there is a music industry. I think there's four. Just as a brief start, the four that I think there is the independent industry, the pop industry, the composer industry, and the sync industry. I'm going to go into much more detail about what they are, but each have a very different way of kind of seeing music and a different way of creating and marketing music. Each are very different, there's a lot of overlap, but here's what I think each one is. The first industry is the independent industry. This is the music industry that most people associate with the music industry that are in the music industry. So a general consumer, someone who watches X Factor and Britain's Got Talent and whatever, will associate the music industry with the pop industry, which I'm going to talk about next. But for now, us musos, I hate that word, but us musos kind of see the music industry as this. Bands fit into this, some pop artists fit into this, folk artists fit into this, and it's the industry you know. You, an artist, writes music. Maybe you're working with a record label, maybe you're working with a publisher, maybe you're working with a plugger to get it on radio, maybe you're working with a PR company to get reviews and features. Everyone does their own thing. You have social media that you run, you release it on iTunes and Spotify, everything's cool. Sometimes your publisher may pitch it for an advert into TV and film, maybe it'll get it, maybe it won't. The record label might get you on a few festivals, you might have an agent to get you on even bigger festivals when you get to that stage. It's the music industry that you know, and it's the music industry that most of us want to be a part of. Next is the pop industry. Most of us are aware of the pop industry. It works very similar to the independent industry, but with a lot more micromanaging from, say, a record label. So generally this industry is slightly more manufactured, not entirely, but a lot of the time the artists are molded by, say, a record label or a manager, and it will be, you should have this type of hairstyle, you should wear this type of clothing, we should go with this kind of look, your website should look like this, we should do this kind of post, we should be working with these kinds of brands. Generally this will happen because, say, the record label or the manager that's kind of running the whole show has had a lot of experience in the music industry. They know what works from their experience and they know what doesn't work from their experience. So they will make sure that the artists that they're working with fit to kind of a formula that they have created. To give, say, Simon Cowell as an example, he has kind of nailed the formula of getting teenagers into music, like One Direction, Little Mix, whatever, are all kind of part of the exact same formula, and it works, so that's what he's going to continue to do. So if you start working with him, he's going to mold you in that way. There's a lot more that they are controlling here as well. Generally, not entirely, but generally, the artist won't write their own music. This is where someone like Max Martin, who's a producer and writer, would come in. He's really good at writing #1 songs, so just bring him in and write a #1 song for our new artist. This happens all the time. Think about, there was a lot of controversy over this when this came out, but when Beyonce had Single Ladies, Single Ladies, and it had like 20 writers on it, people were complaining and saying this is bollocks. That's kind of what the pop industry is. I mean, that's not going to be 20 people in a room. That might be like 4 people who wrote it, and then they sent it to someone else to add some things to it, and sent it to someone else to add some things to it, and it all became kind of a big collaboration. And I think that's what a lot of the pop industry music writing is. It's a collaboration between producers and writers, and sometimes the artist, and that is just something you don't see in the independent industry as much. So outside of the music itself, this industry will also be filled with kind of brand affiliations and marketing and all of this stuff that's really manufactured. It's the kind of thing that you see like Kim Kardashian doing, and all of the kind of huge celebrities that kind of aren't themselves on social media, that have these kind of brand affiliations and do all of these things because they are themselves a brand. The persona you're seeing isn't the real person. What you're seeing is the manufactured personality of the artist, which can be disassociated with the person who plays the artist. I get that this sounds a little bit cynical and a bit mean against the pop industry, but really it does it quite well. The thing that it's doing is making lots and lots of money, and it's doing quite good at doing that. So more power to them, but you know, whatever. So next is the composer industry. This is the first industry that takes a complete swerve. So what do I mean by the composer industry? Generally, this will be one person or say a group of people who write music and then hire people, whether that's an orchestra or just a jazz band or a brass band, to then play their thing. Before I say any more about this industry, I know very little about this industry. Everything that I say here is going to be a really broad assumption, and there's a chance that there's a lot more minute things that I miss out here, so I apologize to anyone who knows more about this industry than I do. It wouldn't be out of the ordinary for you to go and see a show and the headline artist being the name of one person, but you actually go and see them and there's like 60 people, and that one person might just be playing one instrument, or they may just be singing, or they may have hired someone to come and sing and they aren't even there, but they will welcome it, or sometimes they'll hold the stick and do the conducting. It's different depending on the artist, but generally it's all the same in that the people that you are watching play or listen to play, if it's on a record, are not the artists themselves. They're full of session musicians, and there's a very big difference in the audience as well. Anyone who listens to the independent industry or the pop industry likes music. They like big catchy songs, and they like to dance, and they like to listen to the radio and just consume music and be part of the culture. The culture of this, the culture of composing music and being a part of this is very different. I think generally, and this is a massive assumption, generally the people who listen to this kind of music are more into music in its own form, into the music itself. They will appreciate that added ninth chord. They will appreciate the modulation that's being used. They will appreciate the feelings that the music gives without it being tied to lyrics or down to really cliched writing techniques. This is a massive contrast to, say, the pop industry, where a lot of people who are listening to pop don't really care about the individual bits of the composition. They care about the lyrics and whether it's catchy or not, or whether they can dance to it or not. And they may listen to a composed piece of music from this other industry and think that it sounds like a song without lyrics. Like if it's an instrumental jazz piece. It's like, oh, that just sounds like it's not finished because it's not got lyrics on it. Whereas someone who listens in that industry itself gets all of the meaning, all of the emotion, all of the feeling that they're supposed to get out of the song without having lyrics, and don't feel as though it needs lyrics because they already get all of that from it. They are more likely to analyze the music itself rather than just listen to and enjoy it. This is probably a good point to say there is a massive overlap between all of these industries. There are artists that fit into the independent and the pop industry. Rappers, for example, like your massive, huge rappers, will fit into both kind of, because they will generally write their own stuff. They're less likely to get lyrics from an outside source because it's part of a rapper's identity what they are physically saying, as opposed to just singing some pop lyrics. Same goes for kind of the jazz industry, which could fit into the independent industry, but could also fit into the composed industry, depending on the artist. And fourth is the industry that most people don't know about, and it's the sync industry. So to give you a brief overview, sync means synchronization. It means putting audio to video. So the theme tune of a TV show, or a soundtrack to a movie, or a song that's behind an Apple advert. All of that is synchronization because it's audio synced to video. Aside from pop artists that get stuff synced, and aside from independent artists that get stuff synced, and aside from compositional artists that get stuff synced, there is another type of artist that isn't actually an artist. Generally, these will be a production house, whether that's just one person or a group of people. They will get a briefing. So say Netflix has got a new show coming out, and Netflix send a brief out. Well, Netflix's show's music supervisor will send a brief out saying, oh, we're making this new show, it's a horror show, we need a theme tune that's going to be 53 seconds long, it needs to feel kind of like this, and we want it to be composed using roughly these instruments. Go. So a production house will make maybe 10, maybe 50, maybe 2 songs that fit that description, and will do variations and do as much as possible to try and guarantee the fact that they will get that job, and then we'll send it to that music supervisor. Generally, this music will never be heard by the public unless it's picked. So really, these kind of artists, they aren't artists at all. They're just people making music based on what demand there is from people that are working in sync. There is no public value with this kind of thing unless they get picked for a big job and it's a show that takes off, and then all of a sudden the theme tune of that show is then a very popular song. Generally, this kind of music isn't listened to by anyone by choice. And it's a weird kind of part of the industry in that it just doesn't work like how everything else does. It's not people doing a vanity project, it's not people trying to get popular, it's not anything to do with the music really. It's people getting briefs, writing music to fit that brief, and then submitting it in hope that theirs is the best of all the different production houses that have submitted music. And it's just there and churning music out, and you probably never hear about any of the companies or know about what they're doing because they're just sat writing music and hoping that it gets picked. Obviously, there's overlap here with all the other industries because all the other industries will write music that gets picked for synchronization. But they generally aren't writing music for that specifically. They will just get a brief through that says, oh, we want a track that's a really happy pop song for this new Apple advert. And it'll just happen to be that the publisher already has a load of artists that make music that sounds like that, so they'll submit that rather than writing new music for it, or maybe they'll write new music for it as well as. Don't know, that's kind of the 4. I want to finish this video by saying to you which part of the music industry you may fit best into by kind of analysing the way that you write music and want to be a part of the industry. I'll start with the industry that you probably assumed was the industry anyway, and that's the independent industry. If you're in a band, if you're a singer-songwriter, if you're doing the music thing, you're doing gigs, you're recording music, you're putting it out on iTunes, you've got social media for you as an artist, and you're getting fans, or not getting fans but want to get fans. The independent industry, you're already a part of. If you want to be a part of that industry, cool, you already know that you want to be a part of it. Then you've got the pop industry. The pop industry is a lot harder to get into, but it's a lot easier to know if you want to be a part of it. If you don't really care about writing your own music, or you don't really care how you get famous, you just want to be a famous singer, or you want to be in a famous boy band, or girl band, or whatever, this is the industry for you. If you're the kind of person that's likely to want to go on X Factor and just be famous, welcome to the pop industry. Super hard to get into, you better be good. And generally from how it's ran, you better look good as well. That's not me, that's the industry, sorry. Okay, then you've got kind of the composer industry. I wish we had a better name for that. We don't. The composer industry is what we're going to call it. If you want to be a part of this industry, you probably already know that you do. Generally, you're going to need to know how to write sheet music, you need to know how other instruments play music, and you will already have an absolute love for music that kind of fits these genres. So you've got your kind of jazz, you've got your classical, and the stuff in between and in and around. There's a lot of music being made like this, and you will probably already know if that's the kind of thing you want to do, and they're probably already doing it. If you're more likely to write your music in Sibelius than in a DAW where you're actually recording stuff yourself, you already know. Then you've got the sync industry. Now I think a lot of people will fit into this industry and would work well in this industry, but don't know it. We have been approached in our years in the industry by many artists that kind of say something like this.
I want to be in the music industry, but I don't know exactly what I want to do. I've got loads of songs. I've written loads and loads and loads of songs. I think they're all really good, but they don't really fit into any kind of genre. Some of them are rock, some of them are pop, some of them are indie, and I just help.
The help that I can give to anyone who's like that, that's just written loads of music, you like music, but you don't want to just write rock. Maybe it's you on your own, maybe it's you writing with someone else, but you're not part of a band, you're not necessarily performing your songs, you're just writing music and you're loving writing music, but you don't know whether to release it as you, or you don't know whether to you don't know what to do. Maybe the sync industry is for you, because the sync industry is based around just writing music. It's not about creating an artist, it's not about creating a brand, it's not about trying to do the algorithm on Spotify, it's not about any of that bollocks. It's just about writing music. Sometimes it's a case of you'll just write music that you think will work well in TV and film, and you'll just have that part of your library, and sometimes you'll get a briefing and you'll write something that fits to the description that's been given. Either way, this is an industry that is entirely about writing music, nothing else. So, if that feels like you, and you can do both, you can be part of an artist and be in a band and do all these things, but also write sync music as your day job, that's fine. There's crossover here in its entirety. If you're doing that, if you're writing loads of music and don't know what to do with it, that is something that you can do with it without having to do anything else. I don't know what part of the industry you want to be in, maybe you want to be in multiple. Please let us know, because since I started kind of seeing the industry as 4 different industries, I've got a much better understanding about how everything works. Because a lot of the times you see a pop artist and you just kind of apply an independent industry mindset to how that would work, and it just doesn't sit right. And then when you start seeing it as 2 completely separate things, it's like, okay, I get it a little bit better now. When you see a jazz act that's not doing the band thing, and it's like, okay, I don't fully get that. Once you see it as it's a different industry, they work completely differently. It's like, okay, it's kind of compartmentalizing everything in your brain a bit better, so you understand everything. So did that help? Is there any more types of industries? Should I have done that a little bit differently? I'd like to know how you feel about it, because yeah, this is kind of a new idea and I want to keep exploring it a little bit, because I think this is just the beginning of kind of how we can start viewing the music industry. Cool. If you want to see more videos from this series, that side of your screen is your friend. If you want to see our best of series, that side of your screen is your friend. This video is a lot longer than we thought it was going to be. But there's a lot more that can be said about this as well. So yeah, please let us know. Maybe we'll make some more videos about it. If you've got any questions, ask them. Cool. Right. We will see you next week. Bye.